Hi, friends. Okay, before we get into anything, my nails are nail foils. I got a ton of questions about them the last time I wore nail foils, so I will show those of you who care how I do them at the end of this video. But for now, remember that video I did a while back when I made pipe cleaner puppies? That was a kit by a brand called Jamiko. Well, after that video, they reached out and sent me another kit of theirs to try. This is called the Paint and Spin Kit. It's $27.99 on Amazon, and I will link it down in my description box. It looks like we've got some sort of ceramic butterfly Ferris wheel and a turtle storage box. It says it's for ages 8 and up. There's a color mixing guide on the box, and then on this side, it looks like the top of the turtle spins. Oh, that sounds so cute. Please read the manual carefully before use. Aye, Captain. The box is actually so cute. Please handle with care when taking it out. That's what she said. Well, I guess he would say that actually. Alright, instruction manual. I will read this carefully before use. There's a ton of foam in here to protect these pieces. We have a baggie of stuff. B7000. Weird question. Is B7000 somehow related to E6000? That's weird to have two glues with such similar and meaningless names. Are they cousins? Once removed? Well, anyway, we have the top of the turtle, the butterfly thingy. Okay, well, these butterflies don't spin. Why did my dumb self think each butterfly spun? Okay, I don't know what this is made out of. I thought it was ceramic, but it's like so smooth. It doesn't feel all chalky and dry like normal ceramic. Weird. There's the baby turtle who doesn't want to come out. Aw, he's got a little face. The Ferris wheel support thingy, the bottom of the big turtle. It looks really nice and solid, but it's not like heavy feeling. Okay, then we have a lot of paint. Wow. 12 little pots of paint and a couple of paint brushes. A pointy brush and a flat brush and a little palette. And that's it. Okay, so we have the big turtle, his shell, and the baby turtle. He goes right there, probably. Then this, and then somehow that sticks onto it. Okay, I'm gonna start with the butterfly because I'm less excited about it, and there's less room for freestyling, sort of, because it's very detailed with all the little butterflies. So I want to get all of the mistakes and the learning curve out of the way first. We have 5 butterflies, a flower in the center, and the Ferris wheel holder post thing. Now, I saw on their Instagram page in an ad for this kit that they had a super cute pastel colored one, so I'm going to try to make a pastel one. Please don't make me use my teeth. All right, I'll scoop some white out and then a little blue and mix it up. This brush actually feels really stiff. Okay, let's hope this paint has good coverage. I'm gonna say not great. I mean, it seems sort of average for paint that comes in a kit. Those usually aren't the highest quality. It also feels as if I'm painting like very dry, almost like the ceramic is sucking all the paint in and then the brush is just scratching along the surface. And I'm already running out of paint. Also, it seems like it's like pulling the paint up or something. Do you see that? Why is that happening? There's no base coat in this kit. It didn't say anything about a base coat, but most kids don't really care about a base coat. And this kit is definitely marketed towards kids. I was reading on their website that this brand, Jamiko, is a partner brand of Let's Resin, specializing in children's DIY toys. All right, let's mix up some more and do another coat. I feel like I can still see through it. Like, it feels like it gets on there, but then it's not gripping onto the surface, and I'm just kind of scraping it back up. Maybe I need to do gentler strokes. Let's be so gentle on this one. Oh, I'm so gentle. I'm just frosting a cake. Frost, frost, frost. Don't you want your frosting? So after 2 coats, it's not terrible. There are a few spots where it looks a little thin, but other than that, it looks okay. So I'm just going to use up this paint before it dries on the palette. Something weird that I noticed when I was washing my brush, after just this first section, the brush is stained blue. It wasn't even a dark blue paint. What is in this paint? Okay, next for some pastel yellow. And I'm going to add a lot of white because I want it to be really pastel. Like a fresh infant that just popped out pastel. This white is basically doing nothing. I don't particularly like this yellow that I mixed up, but I mixed up a lot of it, so I'm going to paint the little post holder thingy just to get some of the paint off of the palette, and then I'll adjust the color again. Okay, so this has been sitting here for a few minutes, and it looks dry, but there's places where the paint just rubs right off. Not everywhere, like I'm rubbing really hard back here, and you can tell because I'm shaking the whole desk, but maybe where the paint is like a little thicker, or maybe it's not dried down fully, I can just rub it right off. So that's something to be aware of, I guess. Also, now the brush is stained yellow. What is in this paint? Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna run out of white if I add any more white to the yellow, but I want it like uber light. The picture was super pastel. If this doesn't make it pastel enough, this is all I can do. I guess this is as light as we're gonna get. So I painted the support spoke things yellow, went back with a few more coats to cover up the blue where it was poking through, and then because I have some of this yellow left and I don't want to waste it since I used so much of that precious white paint, I'm going to mix some green into it and make a nice springy green. It's still a little darker than I want, but it's okay. It's all right. So I'm going to use this on the base of the post, going very carefully around the edge so that I don't need to touch it up. This detail brush is already getting pretty spread out and frayed, so if you can't tell, I am not the biggest fan of these brushes. I added a bit more white, again, to lighten the green, and I think that looks better. Also, I am noticing that the second coat of the paint doesn't get as sucked into the ceramic, so it seems like it actually coats better and goes on smoother. Especially if I paint really gently and just sort of glide the paint on. I'm also noticing that this paint actually dries lighter than when it's wet, but most acrylic paint darkens as it dries, so that's mysterious. Alright, back to these butterflies. I mixed up some pink, purple, and orange. Well, I won't call them pastels, but lighter than the full strength from the pots. And I used up all of the white paint. I even really dug in there with my brush to get every drop. So this is as light as it's getting. I need a less frayed detail brush, and I'm wondering if the brushes are part of the problem because they're so stiff and they seem to scrape at the paint. So I'm going to try some of my own brushes. Well, brushes that I bought, I didn't make them, but they are a lot softer, so we'll see if that is going to help. And even with this first pink butterfly, I can immediately tell the difference. The paint spreads so much easier and more evenly, and it looks so much better even after one coat. So I'm going to go with a pink, orange, and purple motif here. And I will say that the coverage is much better than I was experiencing before. Like, it's still going to need another coat probably, but it isn't leaving super thin areas like it was before, and it has a really smooth finish. So I do think the brushes were the problem. Now, I don't know how much kids would care about that, but I actually do know some pretty particular tiny humans. Now, after a second coat of everything, it looks pretty good. Nice coverage. And now, since I don't know if you've heard the news, but I used up all of the white paint, and while I could use my own paint, I really want to try to stick to what's in the kit. Well, as much as possible. I already cheated with my own brushes, but I'm going to try to accent this with full strength colors, straight out of the pots. And I really need to stop touching the wheel to the mat on the desk because it's scraping the paint off. So after painting the flower, all the little details on the butterflies, the center of the flower, and their little buggy bodies, there are a few little areas where the paint rubbed off, and I don't have that color anymore since I used it all up. So I'm just going to add some little dots and markings here and there to cover those spots up and make it part of the design. I added a few more little touches to the other ones that didn't have any scuffs, just so that they all match together. And while all of that dries, I'm going to finish up this post by painting the edge and the bottom a darker green. I'm not thrilled about this green. I don't really like bright yellow and bright green together because it reminds me of corn stalks. And while I love me some corn, it's not particularly my favorite aesthetic, even though I've actually painted it more than once on this channel. After everything is dry, it looks good, but the back of the Ferris wheel is a mess. And I think you're going to be able to see that. So I'm going to paint it. I made a nice little paper towel bed for it so it hopefully doesn't get scratched up. And hopefully this yellow is going to dry a little lighter than it looks. Now that this is all painted and dry, we got to stick it together. And the instructions say that in our little baggie of goodies, we need this glue and this little glue topper thingy, and then the 2 parts of a ball bearing. And we get to do some construction. So it says to install the topper, so I assume that I need to take the lid off. And I probably need to pop this seal first. It doesn't say any of that, it just says install. I hate popping these kinds of tube seals because I always end up squeezing a bunch out. I'm scared I'm going to make a huge mess. Alright, that's going to have to be good enough. So then we're going to put this on here. So I need my little bed back for the butterflies because I need to glue this piece directly in the center of the Ferris wheel. Oh, does this come off? Oh, well, what's the point of that? Why would you not just have that on there? What's this stupid red top for? Hello? Where's it going? The bottle is squeezing in, but nothing is coming out. Okay, I see it. It's coming. Okay, we're just gonna do that and aim for the center. And then we glue this other part in there. Then I need to wait 30 minutes. Alright, it's been drying 30 minutes, so let's see if I can snap this together. Oh dear lord. Oh, well that didn't work. It said 30 minutes, but it lied. Let me just pound this in and then re-glue it. At least I know where this goes now. And I'm making kind of a mess. Alright, well, I guess I'll see you in 30 minutes. Just kidding. I figured out a way to prop it. While I was waiting for this to dry, I started looking at the glue a little closer, and it says it's a magic glue. So then I got really intrigued, and the writing is way too tiny on the back for my naked eyeballs to read, so I took a super zoomed in video. What's not afraid of bed? Alright, this thing is actually dry. I left it for 1.5 hours, so it seems pretty solid now. I mean, I'm not about to chuck it at a wall or anything, but I feel confident enough to spin it and it probably won't go flying off. If you do this craft, maybe snap it together before you glue it. There is a little bit of a glue mess around the middle and the back, and the spin is kind of wobbly, but overall I like it. This is a fun idea. They should make more spinning ceramic crafts. So next we have this turtle, which I really considered busting out my own paint for because there was this super cute donut turtle on their Instagram, and that would definitely require more pastels. But there's so much paint left that I think I want to challenge myself to do something more brightly colored. I spent quite a while trying to figure out what I could make with this guy and these colors, and I want to incorporate this little guy into the design. I thought about a sea theme because there's a cute, kind of simple sea-themed one on their Amazon listing, but then the idea of sand kind of reminded me of those turtle sandboxes that little kids have, but that seemed kind of simple. So looking at the colors of paint instead, I thought of fruit. I like painting fruit. And this little rim around the shell kind of looks like the rim of a bowl. So I sketched out some fruits like they're in a fruit bowl. And already I'm thinking this is going to be really complicated. Is this a terrible idea? Well, when has that ever stopped me? So I just started by blocking everything out with some base colors. This fleshy orange is going to be an orange. And then we have some strawberries, a yellow blob that will be a lemon, some blueberries, and grapes. This is looking a hot mess. Then I tried to mix a tiny bit of green and a lot of yellow to try and lighten it up into a light green. Okay, more yellow. And even more yellow. I guess that's going to work for a kiwi. Now, I really didn't know what to do for the center because I didn't want two fruits of the same color touching, so I just painted the whole thing pink, and I'll figure out later how to make it look like raspberries. Then I went over the whole thing with a second coat. Now, I'm going to add some details to try to make these actually look like fruits and not some abstract puzzle. I used the orange that was in the kit to make the peel and the flesh. That's what this part is called, right? Shouldn't the peel be the flesh? Also, these little indented crevices really make my straight lines look pretty drunk. I mean, that's not really the kit's fault that I decided to paint fruit on a turtle shell. That's a me problem. Then I'll detail the kiwi. I know that I'm going to have to get creative and mix up some colors, so I'm trying to do the ones that I don't need to make custom colors for first. And seriously, I am so appreciative that this kit came with 12 colors. It's really actually pretty amazing. And if you weren't obsessed with pastels like I am, you could make quite a lot of colors with this. So I mixed a little bit of light blue with an even littler bit of dark blue to make some shading for these blueberries. And then I used the dark blue to make the star things on top. I thought this was a stem, but it's actually a calyx. I looked up a lot of fruit anatomy for this video. I mixed a little bit of purple into that blue mix that I already had and shaded the grapes. And then, since I wasn't really liking that color too much, I mixed a little bit more purple and dark blue in and then added an outline. I'm not really sticking to one cohesive shading or outlining style. I'm just sort of doing my best, really. I mixed some brown into the yellow to make a darker yellow. And then I made a super mix of pink, red, purple, and the tiniest bit of brown for the shadows on the raspberries. These really aren't looking too much like raspberries to me. They kind of look like raspberry colored popcorn, but that's fine because I'm going to plop that little baby turtle right here anyway. For the strawberry, I mixed a tiny bit of brown into red for the outline, and then I used brown for the seeds. These are not the best fruit that I've ever done, but they're not the worst either. But they could really use some highlights to punch them up. Highlights in art are like a glitter top coat on your nails. They just make everything look better. But we are where we are. So now for the turtle, I'm going to need a lot of this yellowy green. So I scraped all the paint out into a larger palette and then mixed a bigger pile of paint. This guy got a nice coat of this yellowy green, and of course he just slurped all that paint right up, so I very quickly ran out of the paint that I'd mixed. I mixed up some more and used up all of the rest of the yellow that I had. So this is it. Now, even though this ceramic really sucks up the first coat of paint, once that's on, the second coat goes on so much faster and smoother. So I bet that a primer or a gesso would really help. And I will say, now that I switched brushes, I do actually like this paint. 2 coats covers pretty good. After the turtle, I started on the rim around the turtle shell. I know that I'm going to run out of this green pretty quick, and at some point, I'm going to have to switch to something else. So I kind of have an order of importance in my head of what I really want to be light green. Luckily, I made it all the way around the edge of the shell and had just a tiny bit left over, so I just went over a few areas on the turtle's body where the paint was looking kind of thin. So now I'm going to have to switch to dark green. First, I added watermelon stripes around the turtle, being really careful not to scratch anything off. And I went around his limbs, kind of like he's inside the watermelon. Not like a costume, like the watermelon is his shell. You know? Just go with it. Whew, thank God that spacing worked out. Then, for this edge up here, I painted it a solid dark green. I went to paint the stripes onto the shell, and I realized that I wanted them to match the stripes on the body, since that would, make sense and all. And I also realized that the lip was wet, and I should have marked them out before. But I made it work. Obviously, we need to paint the underside of the shell and inside the turtle red, since that's the inside of the watermelon, and add some black seeds. I tried to make all of the seeds going in the same direction inside of the turtle, and it got a little trippy. Then I painted the bottom of the turtle dark green. It's not really going to show, but I didn't want him to be naked down there. Then this little guy is going to be a raspberry. So I painted him pink and added some shading in his little pattern thing and around the edge of his shell. It's not at all neat, but it'll do. But then he got some little turtle freckles, and ooh, they're so cute. The last thing I need to do is give this guy a face. I'm going to plan it out a little so it's not crooked. Then I very carefully painted it in. For some reason, I really like the idea of a super simple face on turtles. I don't know why, but it really tickles me. His eyes are going to be teeny tiny watermelon seeds. And then the baby is going to have a bigger face because he has little indents and there's nothing else I can do. And now it's time to put them all together. Hold please while I try to get the lid on the right way. It's like trying to put a USB in the slot. Now I need another ball bearing and I snap it together. Hello? Why can I not get these together? I'm not weak. I work out sometimes. Let me use this old empty marker to hammer it together. Just kidding. Let's try the last ball bearing in the pack. Alright, well, I guess that's better. Then, for some reason, we don't glue this one. We use these foam dots on each side of the bearing. And we attach one side to the baby turtle, and then the other side to the turtle shell. It says stick wherever you want, but where else are you going to stick it? Oh my god, that would actually be hilarious to put it on the head. No. It has to go here because I already decided. Oh my god. Why do I love this so much? Okay, he's kind of stuck sideways because I think he's off center a bit, but I wanted the foam flat on the shell and not over one of the indents. Whee! I can't stop spinning him. Oh no. If you look at him straight on, Dad's face is crooked. He's got like a head tilt. You know what? I don't care. This is so fun. This is like a new little fun fidget toy. Alright, let me stop spinning this and compose myself for final thoughts. So obviously the ceramic pieces are A++, chef's kiss, amazing. I love these. Please make more spinny figurines, especially those with tiny spinny babies. Slightly less amazing, but still pretty good, is the paint. There was a really good selection of colors, and the coverage is pretty nice. I do think a primer would be helpful for getting it to stick, and I will probably go back and seal these in with a matte varnish. Plus, I still have a lot of paint left over. The instructions and assembly were pretty good. It does say to have a parent help with the glue, so maybe that's why I struggled. I'm not a parent. The brushes were a solid D- at least. Sorry, but they did more harm than good when painting. They ended up out of shape pretty quickly, and the paint stained them. Weirdly, none of my brushes were stained at all. So overall, I think this kit is pretty good, and I really like the little pieces I was able to create. If you want to try this kit out for yourself, I will link it in the description, and thank you, Jamiko, for sending this to me. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, thanks for sticking around to the end. Let me show you how I do these nail foils. They're super easy, it's just a matter of getting the supplies. These are my nails beforehand. I have hard gel builder on them because my nails are jerks and refuse to keep anything on, including shellac. So having a hard gel overlay is the only way that I can keep color on my nails. Anyway, first, I'm just going to put on a base coat of color. Regular polish works just fine, but I just used a cheap white gel polish because I didn't want to wait for it to dry. Now for the fun part. Here are the nail foils. They just come in little rolls like this, like a little film. I also have nail foil glue. This one cures under a UV light, but there are some that dry naturally. I just don't think they work as well. Also, my nail foils came with this little rubber tip tool. I like to cut my nail foils into smaller sheets because they're easier to work with than the whole roll. So then I just paint on a coat of the glue and cure it under the UV light according to the instructions. Then you put the sheet on, foil side down, and rub it with your finger or the tool. And the glue is just going to pull the foil right off of the sheet and onto your nail. Sometimes there's spots that get missed, and you can just press more foil down onto those spots, and it'll pull off a little piece because the glue isn't covered yet. The last step is to put on a top coat. I've used regular top coat before, and it works, but I am crazy hard on my nails, so I'm going to use 2 coats of gel top coat. And that's it. I hope that helps.